This is Kentucky Afield Radio. This is Ron Rohde, Kentucky Afield's first host back in 1953. Now, I'm proud to present Charlie Baglan.
There is nothing more precious than our name. We want it pronounced right, spelled right, but when it's a weird name like mine, names will take more butchering than the Thanksgiving Day turkey. My two guests today know this very well because their name is my name. Today you will meet every Charles Baglan in the world. All three of us. It's like an early Christmas. In honor of Thanksgiving, our show is about family. Next on Kentucky Afield Radio.
Mom and Dad dusted and ran the vacuum. They made me clean my room and promised not to spend all my time texting while company was here. I said, okay. Charlotte, she's my cousin, and my Aunt Heather are excited about seeing our new house. It still smells like new carpet to me, but Mom says cookies and turkey and rolls will soon take over, so it'll be fun.
Holidays are fun, so let them begin by arriving safely. Paid with federal funds through the Kentucky Office of Highway Safety.
Deer in the headlights. Watch out, Mr. Deer.
Singing with your kids in the car is one way to keep deer hazard season in mind. And should a deer catch your headlights, flash those lights, sound your horn, break its concentration to scurry it along.
There's one.
And where there's one, there may be 2 or 3 more. Deer hazard season runs through November, so be wise behind the wheel while nature runs its course. A message from Fish and Wildlife and the Kentucky Office of Highway Safety. I have a strange last name. Probably I'm the only Baglan you've ever heard of, but I'm fortunate to have a popular first name. Charles is the 8th most popular name in history. But Baglan, now that's an odd name. I do not have a middle name. But at least for those of us who are named Charles, we are in very good company. Examples include Prince Charles, Charles de Gaulle, Charles Lindbergh, Charlie McCarthy, Charles Ali, heavyweight boxing champion, Charlie Sheen, Charles McCartney, founder of the Beatles. How about NBA great Charles Barkley, Charles in Charge, Charles Darwin, Charlie Brown. When I took this job in 1991, the boss had a name badge engraved for me. Instead of Baglan, she had it engraved Baglin. I pointed it out, and she said, "Is it that bad?" I replied, "It's my name." And if you have an odd name yourself, then you know the torment that I have been through most of my life. So do my two guests. And I assume we all know each other because we all have the same name. But Charles Sr., let me ask you this. All three of our names, the first name is Charles. Your middle name is Enos. Now, did Chaz E sort of morph into Chase as that Chaz E, or was...
No, we put a nickname on him before he was born.
The real name is Charles Enos.
Yeah, Charles Enos Baglan, the third.
And you're the second, right, Chuck?
I should be, but I'm junior on my Social Security card.
Okay, you're junior. Chase, are you content with being the third, or would you rather be another number?
Third's fine.
Anybody who has a number at the end of their name has to be special. Charlie Baglan, Dad, you are junior, but if your son is the third, doesn't that make him sound distinguished?
Well, yes, it does.
Chase, you ought to be getting dates left and right by saying your name is Charles Enos Baglan III. So, son, are you getting a lot of dates and attention with being the third? Does it help?
I don't know if they even know it. Charlie, he just chased everybody.
Everybody just calls me the Chase, or they call me Baglan.
Baglan. There are a lot of people listening that aren't named Smith and Jones. We have odd names, and there are odd names in the telephone book everywhere you look. Baglan is always, at least in Kentucky, they will mispronounce the name Bagby, Bagwell, you name it. But Baglan, you sure your name is Baglan? What kind of butchering does your name get in Mississippi?
Bagwell is the biggest, but...
and Bagland.
They put a D on it. But used to, it was Bagwell is what they confused it with, Charlie. But, you know, over the years, I know so many people, they know me now by my real name, but somebody on first impression, they about going to call me Bagwell.
I love the people who say, "Are you sure there is no D on the end of it?"
Yeah, I've had that happen.
Well, they invariably want to put a D on it. There's no question about that. Even when they get it right, the pronunciation right, and the spelling, they still want to put that D on it.
It's sad. There's nothing more precious in life than someone's name. You want them to say it right, pronounce it right, spell it right. You don't like anybody getting in there and sort of messing with your identity. And it happens to people like anybody named Baglan.
Well, the Baglan name is very rare, and very few people on first impression have ever heard that name. Probably nobody has ever heard that name. Because until I met you 20 years ago, I didn't even know there was another Baglan out there, your age, or your sister's age. But I never really knew a whole lot about my daddy's family. I know that my daddy's daddy was a riverboat, I think they call them pilots. And his wife, my grandmother, was also a riverboat pilot. I
have chased the Baglan name through Facebook and the Internet, and I'm not one to really delve into our ancestry. My sisters do, but I have found a small village in New South Wales over in the United Kingdom. And by darn, it is a village. The name of it is Baglan, and it has its own rugby football club. And I've looked them up on Facebook, and sure enough, the town of Baglan, and you can see the players. And I wrote to them, and I said, my name is Baglan. I don't know if I came there, if you would crown me king or not, but could you at least send me a rugby football club jersey from Baglan with the Baglan name on it? And they said, well, that's cool, and they did. I have it in my closet and wear it every now and then, so I'm proud. We are somebody, Charles and Charles. Here on this radio show, we are talking to two people named Charles Baglan. They both live in Mississippi. It's Charles Jr. and Charles III. And Charles III is the son of Junior. And Kentucky likes Mississippi, and I think we do have some things in common. I have to ask the most important question first. Mississippi State or Ole Miss?
Chase is a Rebel fan, and I am too. But I graduated from Mississippi State, and I have a daughter going to Mississippi State. So
you have to like both. Now, Chase...
you have to be both.
Chase, do you truly like both?
I do. I was in politics early on, Charlie, and you had to like them all. You had to go to all of them's game when you could. And I guess that's just bled over with me. But I graduated from Mississippi State in 1974.
In Kentucky, we like Mississippi for all the obvious reasons. We want to thank you for Elvis Presley. We want to thank you for Peyton Eli and Archie Manning. We certainly, you may not realize this, but the Mississippi River does touch the western tip of Kentucky. And I think that even though you were once in politics, we have a strong dislike for any team out of Arkansas.
Well, interesting.
The University of Kentucky has always dreaded a basketball game with the Arkansas Razorbacks. So is that a big rivalry there in Mississippi?
Yes, it is, but not as much as State and Ole Miss or Ole Miss and LSU.
My mother went to LSU.
Back in the 70s, there was a very controversial game that went on down in Louisiana with Ole Miss, and something happened to the clock, and there was a 16-second gap. LSU wound up winning a game that everybody from Mississippi felt the clock had run out on, and they shouldn't have won. And it's been a grudge fight ever since.
Is that basketball or football?
Football. Basketball is not anything like football. Down here, when we have a home game, at State or at Ole Miss, it is a big deal. The people come in 2 or 3 days before the game, and they tailgate, and they just have parties over to Oxford for 2 or 3 days at a time. They do it over Mississippi State, but it just doesn't have the popularity that it has over at Ole Miss. Every year they do a program on tailgating at Ole Miss on national television.
Chase, what do you think about football? Is it the meaning of life?
Down here, pretty much is. If it's a Saturday and there's a football game, everybody's either going or they're watching it or they're partying.
Well, let me ask you this. If it is down there and it is Saturday in the fall and there's a football game and it's also deer season, which do you pick?
Well, that's pretty close. Unless it's the Egg Bowl, most of the time I'll pick hunting. I'll go hunting like in the morning, then try to make the game. But some days I miss the games and I'd just rather go hunting.
Appreciate a man who has his priorities together. This is the Family Thanksgiving Show, and I feel like I'm talking to myself. My guests are Charles Baglan and Charles Baglan, the only two other Charles Baglans, at least according to Google, on the planet. We will have more after the break. You're listening to Kentucky Afield Radio. My name is Charles Baglan, and my guests are also named Charles Baglan. It's Thanksgiving weekend. This is our Thanksgiving show about family, and Charles Baglan Jr. is the father. He is a busy attorney in Batesville, Mississippi. That's in the northern part of the state. His son, Charles Baglan III, college student, preparing to change the world, no doubt. So, Charles Baglan III, let me just mention that it is up to you to carry on the family name. Good luck with that. I do wish I knew these two gentlemen better, but the sheer distance has prevented that. One thing, though, that is a fact despite the distance is our sheer love for the outdoors. And Charles III, you are quite the outdoorsman.
Oh, yes, sir. Anytime I get a chance to be in the woods or on the lake, I do it.
Would you rather be deer hunting, turkey hunting? Do you like going out on any of your lakes? And what do you prefer?
Most favorite kind of hunting is probably deer hunting.
Do you have your eye on one? You want a buck or a doe?
I've got my eye on a few bucks I know that are running around, but just hoping to find them at the right spot at the right time. And I've been working here about the last month, getting bush hogged and food plots done and getting ready to get the stands cleaned up this week.
Dude, you're the man.
We still hunt a lot together. It's just that he goes in his truck and I go in mine because, I may want to come home before he does.
So tell me about the biggest buck you've brought home lately.
11 point with an 18-inch spread about 2 years ago. That was the last big deer I've killed.
Did you score that deer?
Yes, sir. I believe it scored around about a 150.
You may have had to chase that deer around for a little while. Did you have to scout him out?
No, sir. Actually, I've been hunting this place the first time I'd ever hunted it. The first year I'd ever hunted it. First big deer I'd really ever killed. I was actually real nervous, but I actually dropped him with one shot at about 200 yards.
Did you learn to love the outdoors as part of growing up from your dad?
Yes, sir. That's all I've really ever known. We went hunting when I started hunting with him, I guess, when I was 5 or 6, and we started hunting together. And then as soon as I started driving, I started going on my own, and he started going on his own.
So, Charlie Jr., when your son was just a little tyke, what did you try to introduce to him to make him appreciate our outdoors?
We did a lot of duck hunting earlier on in Tennessee at Reelfoot Lake. He really enjoyed that. That's about a 3.5 hour drive for us. We have a brother-in-law that had a big blind on Reelfoot Lake, and you could really limit your ducks out. If the ducks were there, you could kill your limit in no time at all.
Part of Reelfoot Lake extends into Kentucky. Are you aware of that?
No, I was not.
Yeah, just a
But I know little it's right up there because it's not but about 30 miles from where my wife's parents are to the Kentucky line. We go to Kentucky all the time. Hickman, Kentucky, I believe, is one of the towns we go to a lot. But anyway, we started off really duck hunting because we had this huge blind. I mean, it was probably 30 feet long. It had a kitchen in it. It was heated. He really enjoyed that as a young guy, but when he got on up around 4 or 5 or 6 and could carry his own gun, so to speak, then he really got to liking deer hunting, and that became his favorite. He and I deer hunted together just about every day. We had an RV that we would carry out to our deer camp, which is about 30 miles from home, and we would leave that RV out there during the deer season, and we'd stay out there at night every weekend. We'd get there on maybe Thursday or Friday, and we'd stay, and sometimes, 4 or 5 days. And we've even stayed out there before he started school. We've even stayed out there as long as 10 days without coming home. But when he got his driver's license, I went back to doing what I like to do, and that's I run bird dogs, horseback field trials. I quit doing that when he was about 3, and I didn't pick it back up big-time basis until he turned 15. And when he got his driver's license and could drive himself, then I went back to field trialing, and that's what I do more than anything.
There's one harvest season that you have in Mississippi that we do not have in Kentucky and never will. The gator harvest. It's not warm enough up here to have gators. But do you go alligator hunting?
I have, but we're too far north for that. You're going to have to get down on the Louisiana line.
Have you ever been on a gator harvest, Chase, yourself?
I've never been on one. I've actually never seen one really in person.
I have. I've been on one.
Well, I do a lot of trot lining on the Tallahatchie River. They say there's 1 or 2 alligators on it that are about 7 or 8 foot long, but I've never seen either one of them.
I have been on a gator harvest in the state of Florida, and I have eaten alligator, and I think it's pretty darn good. Have you ever?
I didn't care for it. I thought it tasted awfully fishy.
Chase, have you ever had any or wanted to try alligator?
I've never had any. Never really been anywhere to try any, I guess you could say. I've seen it on a few restaurant menus, like fried alligator bites or something down around Louisiana, but I've never thought to try it.
So you live in northern Mississippi. I'm thinking when I go outside my door, I can look out and see hills, I see forests, fields. That's the type of topography we have. Where you live, what do you have?
We live on the edge of the Delta. If you go west from our town 10 miles, you'll be in the Delta. If you go east from our town 10 miles, you'll start getting into some rolling hills.
The Delta meaning, is that the Mississippi River?
Yeah, it's flat land around the river. Flat as a pancake.
Let's say I am listening to this program in Kentucky and I'm wanting to head south for a vacation. We may not be as southern as Mississippi. What are some good traditions we ought to come down and take part in?
They got the good deer hunting, but they're also great for duck hunting. I got a lot of buddies whose daddies are farmers and stuff, and they'll flood corn fields and rice fields, and it's got a good bit of duck hunting and hog hunting.
Yeah, hogs are getting to be a big thing down here.
Hogs have been a big thing in Kentucky. We were noticing that they were destroying land, habitat, farms. We eradicated the fool out of them, and I think right now as we speak, they're not necessarily a problem anymore, but there are some areas where they put hogs out and let people come along to hunt them. Do you have that situation in Mississippi?
No, you don't need to put them out. They're here. There are a lot of, I guess you call them semi-professional hog hunters that have packs of dogs to run them with. They use mixed breed pit bulls and just big, huge hounds. They'll come in after deer season's over. They'll come into these big deer camps. The deer camps want them out because they root up all the food plots. But they'll bring those dogs in there, and they'll hunt them for 4 or 5 days after deer season's over. The first day you may kill 40 hogs. Second day you may kill 35 hogs. And then, by the 7th or 8th day, they'll move out of that area. But they'll come back after you quit hunting them.
We haven't talked much about fishing. What are some of the key lakes in North Mississippi where you live?
We live 8 miles from Enid Lake. 30 miles south of here is Grenada Lake. It's not quite as big as Enid, but it's a pretty good-sized lake. 10 miles north of here, we have Sardis Lake.
Do you spend any time on any of those 3?
Oh, yeah, all of them. Not so much Grenada anymore. I used to fish Grenada a lot, but Chase and I primarily fish Enid because it's 8 miles from our house.
Oh, yeah, that's convenient.
But we have the St. Jude Bass Classic on Sardis every year, and I've fished it every year, probably for the last 15 years.
Chase, which one of those is your favorite lake, Enid?
Probably Enid. I know more about Enid. I don't know as much about Sardis. It's a lot bigger, and it's just farther away.
Chase, tell me about the biggest fish you've caught. You remember?
Biggest one's 4 to 5 pounds. Now, I've hung 1 or 2. I hung one in the pond one time. Me and Daddy were fishing in a little 2-man boat. I had stuck my pole down in the water to see how deep it was. We was on like a point, I guess you could say. And I went to pull it back up, and I hooked one that probably weighed 8 to 9 pounds.
No, that fish weighed over 10 pounds.
Could have stuck my whole hand in his mouth.
Could have stuck a football in his mouth.
But I never got it.
That big crankbait, I'd have reached and got him.
He broke my line, but man, he was the biggest bass I ever seen in person, like fishing-wise.
Well, Charles, I'll tell you this much. It does my heart good to sit here and talk to somebody named Charles Baglan, who actually has a father and was with him to help him along out in his early going to appreciate nature and the love of wildlife. My daddy died, and his name was Enos Baglan, which is your middle names. He died in 1965 or 1966. I was just a little bitty thing. I don't even think first grade yet. And so I grew up with the benefit of a mother, a couple of sisters, my grandfather, but no dad. And so I just want you to realize and remember just how special it is, the relationship that you two have had all these years.
Well, we had a lot of fun, but I'm going to tell you something. When these kids get a driver's license, they're gone.
I stay gone a little bit, but we still do a little fishing and hunting together time to time.
If you ever wanted to come up, we've got some trophy deer up here, too, and we'd welcome you to come up and take one home with you.
It's not far from here to Kentucky. 3.5 hours, maybe.
That'll put you in Hickman or right over the border near Kentucky Lake and Lake Barkley. Great area.
Call us sometime. Maybe you can come down.
Yeah, maybe.
You're welcome to come down anytime you want to come.
Thank you,
just
Chief.
call me and say, Charlie, I got the weekend off, I'd like to ride down.
All right.
Or either fly to Memphis and I'll pick you up at the airport.
There you go.
All right.
All right, Charlie. Chase, thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Bye.
Well, I guess that concludes the self-serving portion of the Thanksgiving show. It is all about family, bear that in mind. And it has taken quite a while to connect with these fellas. I'm both on the phone at the same time, and I'm glad we've made it work out for Thanksgiving. Just ahead is a message you can take to heart about being good neighbors when we come back on Kentucky Afield Radio. We are back on Kentucky Afield Radio. This is our Thanksgiving show, and normally we would have our fishing report at this time. But we have given our fisheries biologist this show off, and they will be back next week as scheduled. That means I have a 2.5-minute hole to fill, and I was all set to give you some stellar advice. So I called this nutritionist, and I had my list of questions ready. How long can the turkey sit out before you eat it? How long can we keep ham in the refrigerator? And she said, oh, I would love to tell you all of these things, but first I have to get approval for marketing. Approval from marketing. This is my opinion. I don't think it's a law someplace, but if you are in the know, and especially if you are certified, and someone asks you a question for the benefit of their health or for the benefit of the public, then by all means, share the information. That very first Thanksgiving menu, wild goose, maybe duck, wild turkey, deer, flint corn, shellfish, and eels. Have you had eel lately? Modern Thanksgiving Day menu, so what we're eating today calls for turkey, mashed potatoes, stuffing, cranberry sauce, gravy, corn, and heaven knows what else. Pumpkin pie. Pam likes cherry pie, so we have that. 248 million turkeys were raised in 2011. These are the latest numbers we have. Where do they come from? Minnesota, North Carolina, Arkansas, Missouri, Virginia, and Indiana together produce most of the turkeys in the United States. 2/3 of the turkeys in the U.S. come from those states. Tryptophan. Tryptophan is an amino acid that is said to make you sleepy, and it is found in turkey. However, it is also found in many other meats, such as fish, other poultry like chicken. We have ham, and I still get tired after the meal. And it doesn't have to be Thanksgiving. If I eat a big meal, I like to kick back and chill afterwards. Thanksgiving is Thanksgiving thanks to a Kentucky boy. Native son Abraham Lincoln when he was president. You might, like a lot of my friends do, hunt your own turkey and have it for Thanksgiving. Which is better, the wild turkey or the broad-breasted white turkey you buy at the store? Well, looks like the wild turkey. Wild turkey is higher in protein, it is lower in fat, lower in cholesterol, but has a few more calories. My name is Charlie Baglan, and I hope you're enjoying our show on Thanksgiving. The show is about being good to each other, being good to family, being good neighbors, good neighborliness. As we kick off the holiday season, we have a way to be good neighbors and not get sued in the process. I'll have the story after the break.
Why do you keep checking the rearview mirror? Is somebody following you?
Well, just everybody on the highway.
Shouldn't you be worrying more about the road ahead?
To all the cars behind me, I am the road ahead. My actions set the pace. If I dawdle at green lights or if I don't pay attention, it affects the whole road. That's a whole lot of hungry people.
This Thanksgiving, wherever you go, be alert, be a leader, and be ready for those who aren't. Paid with federal funds through the Kentucky Office of Highway Safety. Kentucky Afield Radio, this is Charlie Baglan in, and we live in a world where litigation is common. Now I bring this up because it applies very often to things we do this time of year. Outdoor recreation. By definition, here's what recreation is. I'm thinking hunting and fishing and hiking and camping and that sort of thing. But here's what defines by law recreation. An activity that refreshes, renews our health, renews our spirits. There is a law that protects recreation on your private property. Each of us loves to recreate. Seeking permission to go onto private property oftentimes is met with a locked gate or a sign that says posted no hunting or posted no trespassing. And so that's what you get. I remember back in school there was a poem, Robert Frost, I do believe. Good fences make good neighbors. You're good right up to a line and you don't cross the line. And in this situation, what we are fencing in or what we're fencing out is essentially the word risk. R-I-S-K. Risk. And it doesn't matter whether our fence is around a little bitty front yard or if our fence is around a big back 40. We tend to be a little bit uncomfortable, and I would say rightfully so, because we're conscientious people. Nobody wants anybody to get hurt or lost. Still, we are a little bit uncomfortable with other people coming onto our property for fun and games. And again, even something as simple as the kids coming over to your property to shoot hoops, or they say you live next to a field, or you have a small farm. Say, I would like to come over there and fly my kite. Joe from church says, hey, can I bring a group out and we can go bird watching, or can we have a picnic there, or can I bring my scout troop out to learn about the different trees, or the list could go on and on. We are uncomfortable having people on our own property because we don't want them to get hurt, and if they do, we don't want to be responsible. And I don't want you to sue me. So I'm just going to put up this sign that says no trespassing. Or if you ask, I'm just going to say, well, I would, but no. As neighborly as we want to be, we decline rather than take that chance. But there is a little-known law that provides protection. People like you and me, to people like your neighbor, it provides protection for property owners in situations exactly like these. Protection that once they could only get by saying, better not. It is called the Recreational Use Statute. It's KRS 411.190. I'll repeat that. The Recreational Use Statute, KRS 411.190. It specifically limits the liability of landowners who make land or water available to the public free of charge for recreational use. Recreation includes, but it isn't limited to, and this is written in the statute, hunting, fishing, swimming, boating, camping, picnicking, hiking, bicycling, horseback riding, pleasure driving, nature study, water skiing, winter sports like, cross-country skiing, sled riding, an excellent example, viewing or enjoying historical or archaeological, scenic, or scientific areas. Kentucky wanted to allow more areas for recreation to occur than the state is able to offer. So, by offering landowners this protection, it opens up areas for you to recreate, hopefully. The Kentucky Recreational Use Statute, I know, has been a topic on this show 3 times over the past 12, 15 years, so you may have missed it. But I have talked to 3 attorneys from the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife / the Kentucky Office of the Attorney General, so they know what they're saying. And we would talk about this point by point by point. And I am now simply reiterating what they said to me and examples they gave, and that you can essentially read for yourself if you just want to go out there and Google the statute. But it's right there in black and white to see how much, how little, the type of pastimes that you allow on your property is strictly up to you. If I say Kevin can come over and fish in my pond, that doesn't mean I have to let Kevin's brother. That doesn't mean I have to let my other neighbors or anybody else. I can limit it just to him or to his kid's scout troop. And what he does when he gets there, that's kind of up to me too. You can go in this field, but you can't go in that field. I'm preparing to plant there. You can go tomorrow from 10 o'clock in the morning until 6 in the evening. But after that, I'd kind of like you to clear out. You set the rules. It's your property. Through the Recreational Use Statute here in Kentucky, you are protected from any liability as long as you follow 2 basic rules. If you are aware of any dangerous conditions, like just because they're out there and you are welcoming them out there, doesn't mean you can deliberately cause them harm. Likewise, if you know of anything that is dangerous to the area, say you got a mean bull over in one pasture, you can go, but stay out of that pasture. You got a mean bull over there, and you never know. Or if you're going to climb trees, I've got this one tree, it's dead, and it looks pretty good, but it's not. Any of those branches could fall. Please don't do that. Or if there's an old well and there's a sinkhole, watch out for these things. If there's things that you know that could bring harm to whoever's doing the recreating, you got to tell them. That doesn't mean every gopher hole. It just means if you know that there are inherently dangerous situations on your property that you know of, you have to disclose that. You sort of cover your fanny, at least going into it. So that's rule 1. And here's rule 2. Don't charge a fee. That's what this statute does, to encourage someone to let someone else use their private land. If you allow someone to come on your land and hunt or fish, for example, and you do not charge them a fee, then they can come on, and if they were to get injured, then you are protected from liability. You're protected from suit. Don't charge a fee. Because if you do charge a fee, even if that's just a couple of bucks for wear and tear or cleanup, then your property has essentially then become a business. Let's say you go into a movie theater and there's a loose step and you fall through. Guess what? Yeah, I'd say they're liable because you paid money to be there. Applicable in this situation. Once you go and make your farm a business, then yeah, you are within that area of invitation. You are going to be looked at for every gopher hole and everything they could trip over. And to wrap up this part of it, if you charge anything, even if you go fishing, give me a couple of the fish, then the statute becomes null and void. Thus, you are going to be facing exactly the headaches you sought first to avoid. Again, the landowner can set the parameters they want. You can fish out of this pond, but not that one. You can hunt this area, but please don't go to that area. That's where my cows are. Set all the parameters you want. And again, you can set it for whoever you want. It can be different person to person. You may get asked this once a year, twice a year, 3 times. You can always say no. Because you say yes to one person doesn't mean you have to say yes to anybody else. The language in the statute says public. That doesn't mean you have to open it to anybody at all. It's whoever you want. You set the parameters. You're the landowner. The statute is in place to help provide people a place to recreate. It in no way gives you the right to trespass or hunt out of season or take any other liberties. You still have to have permission. The hope is, though, through this statute, that the very reason wildlife agencies choose to promote it is that more people will be more inclined to say, sure, you can come hunt squirrels on my property. Sure, you can come over to my place and hunt turkey. Thanks for asking. Enjoy yourself. It has been put in place to help more landowners say yes without the fear of repercussions. This is not a new rule. This isn't something that just dreamed up in Frankfurt last week. This was done in 1966. It's been in place for as long as many of us have been alive. Most of Kentucky's land, and most, percentage-wise, 92%, somewhere in there, of Kentucky's land is privately owned. Not a whole lot of public land. Recognizing this, the legislature enacted the Kentucky Recreational Use Statute way back in the middle 60s so that people could have a place to go. And again, the landowner wouldn't have to worry. So let them know if there's anything dangerous out there. And do not charge a fee. Got to remember, landowners still hold the cards. Landowners make the rules. And at least they know that they're not left holding the bag should anybody get hurt. And this is something you might want to know going into it. Say you're going to go over to a friend's house who you know owns some property and say, is it okay if I hunt turkey there? Or is it okay if I bring my kids and go camping? Is it okay if I hunt deer there, or squirrel or dove? Prepared all the while for that landowner, that otherwise nice guy, to say, no, I don't want to be responsible if you get hurt. If you know the recreational use statute outline going into it, you say, you're not responsible at all. It's all on me. And even should something happen, it's not on your shoulders at all. That's what the recreational use statute states. But instead of saying no, you can say, well, maybe that no will turn into a yes. Or maybe that no will turn into a really. Maybe, well, let me think about it. Let me read more about this thing. So it maybe is opening a door where once the door was locked shut. You can find out more about this online. You can just go to your Google text box and put in Kentucky Recreational Use Statute. And everything you find will say pretty much what I just said. Something to keep in mind this hunting season. I guarantee you it can make a difference. The clock is ticking. We have a few more minutes left in the show. When we come back from the break, an in-depth look at exactly what Turkey Day is and what it has been. Charlie Baglan in. Stay with us on Kentucky Afield Radio. This is Kentucky Afield Radio. It's Charlie Baglan in. Back in the day, and you've heard me say this 1,000 times, our show used to not be 1 hour, but rather 5 minutes, more of a radio report. And this is one, I think it takes us back close to 15 years.
Carving a turkey and its place in history. Next on Kentucky Afield Radio. It would be easier to separate mint juleps from the Kentucky Derby than to ever try to pry the turkey from Thanksgiving. As commonplace as the turkey is in our life, Thanksgiving without a turkey might be just another Thursday.
Ben Franklin, he actually wanted it to be the national bird instead of the eagle. A lot of people laughed at him, said they were too dumb to, but I don't know how smart a turkey is, but wary it definitely is, and it's a beautiful bird.
Before the turkey was a bird of the barnyard, the turkey was, and is still, the most fascinating bird of the forest.
Turkeys can run up to 25 miles an hour, and they can fly upwards of 50-plus miles an hour. They're remarkable flyers and extremely quick.
Obviously, the domesticated butterball comes from good genes.
Just absolutely remarkably keen senses, can pinpoint direction and location of a sound from hundreds of yards away. Their eyesight is absolutely remarkable. They can pick up movement at 100 yards, 200 yards, just a slight flinch.
Of course, if something doesn't quite measure up to standards, we call it a turkey. But turkeys are one way we measure the great outdoors. These birds are native only to North America, and there are 5 different types. The eastern wild turkey lives in Kentucky and is abundant in every county.
There's a lot of things that prey on turkeys. Bobcats are one of the big ones, coyote, great horned owls, red-tailed hawks. Anything that could catch one that likes to eat meat will do it.
And people consume turkey to the tune of 17.5 pounds per person per year. The turkey's popularity came about thanks in part to the bluegrass state. It was in 1863 when native Kentuckian and President Abraham Lincoln proclaimed Thanksgiving a national holiday. But part of the holiday story that isn't as quick to be told is that as recently as the 1930s, North America's wild turkeys were on the verge of extinction.
The whole eastern U.S. was over-harvested on turkeys and on timber. Basically everything was clear-cut, and it took away the habitat that turkeys needed.
At the time, only 30,000 remained.
Restoration efforts by the different state agencies, coupled with the National Wild Turkey Federation, when they were formed in 1977, have really helped the populations everywhere.
Everywhere, including Kentucky.
We started stocking in about 1978, and we stocked for 20 years. Close to 7,000 birds we relocated into the state from western states.
Today, we have close to 250,000 turkeys in Kentucky, a number kept in check from a growing number of turkey hunters, who every spring and fall are thanking table and trophy as they trek to the woods.
Deer and turkey, grouse, woodcock, quail, all of the above are doing remarkably well compared to, say, 80 years ago.
If your interest in turkey takes you past the leftovers, then you know the strengths and the beauty of these forest birds. That said, calling someone a turkey is sort of a compliment. But
I've seen turkeys try to go through a woven wire fence when they could obviously fly right over. I've seen turkeys that won't cross a creek. A lot of hunters call it hanging up. There are simple things that hang them up in the woods that would be easier for them to get around, and sometimes they seem baffled by simple obstacles, and that might be where part of it comes from.
We borrow the term gobble from a turkey, but it's typically only the male turkey that gobbles. The female or hen makes more of a yelp.
The biggest difference is the bird at the grocery store has been bred and rebred to inherit certain traits. The big breast. They don't fly as well. They can go airborne, but they can't fly for any distance whatsoever. They're basically a mutation compared to the wild birds. Wild birds are taller. Wild birds are more lean.
While November checks in as highest in turkey consumption, it's June that is actually National Turkey Lovers Month, and dating back to the time of the Pilgrims, we Americans have spread the love of turkey worldwide and beyond. When astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin sat down to the first ever meal on the moon back in July of '69, their foil food pouch contained roast turkey and all the trimmings.
And we're getting a picture on the TV.
But back on Earth, acknowledgement of the turkey rarely goes beyond the dinner plate. But the turkey was there for that first Thanksgiving, and it symbolized the absolute bounty the land and nature have to offer. And amid the parades and football and everything else that makes the season, it still can.
And that was Kentucky Afield Radio as it once was. We're about out of time. Let's take a look at the Kentucky Afield calendar. Coming up on Friday the 4th of December, the Clay Wildlife Management Area pheasant quota hunts, December 4, 5, and 6, the entire weekend. The opening day of late turkey shotgun season is Saturday the 5th. The last day of the middle dove season is the 6th. The Yellowbank Wildlife Management Area having their pheasant quota hunts, December 11 through the 13th, so it's that second weekend of December. December 11th is also the last day for the late turkey shotgun season. Elk archery and crossbow seasons close December 12 through 25. Modern gun bear season opens the 12th also and ends Monday, the 14th. The last day of woodcock season is the 15th. The last day of the late muzzleloader season for deer ends on the 20th of December. That's Sunday. So what's up for you during the Thanksgiving Day break? Putting up a Christmas tree? Christmas shopping? Friends and family in? Maybe you're traveling yourself. Eating turkey? Getting a little sleep. You can't always blame it on the Detroit Lions. That tryptophan in turkey, it's true, it does make you tired. It's factual, it's happened to me, it's happened to you, I'm sure. It's happened to my cat. Let me tell you the story about Mike the cat real quick. He was celebrating a birthday. It was around 1997 or so. We had several people over to celebrate this birthday. He had friends coming in from all over town and maybe even 30 miles away. He was jumping up on people's laps, and they were petting him, and he was just having the time of his life. His favorite thing in the world, deli-sliced turkey, and that was his gift. I had some in the refrigerator, and when it came time for him to open his gift, I got it, and boy, he started going crazy, jumping up on my leg and wanting some of this turkey. It was the thinly sliced, like shaved it thin, razor thin, the good stuff. I put him some out on his dish, and he just chowed. Next thing you know, he was taking a nap, slept through the rest of his gala event. I've often said that there's nothing in this world better than a dog, but that Mike the cat was pretty close. I'm hoping this Thanksgiving will be your best yet. Join us in a week and we will go inside outdoors again, right here on Kentucky Afield Radio.